Alright, today we're going over an Elden Ring character tier list. We're gonna rate the NightFarers, somewhere on the scale, and I'll explain why as to how I rate them. These are, of course, my own opinions, so I'll be going over some of their stats. And do keep in mind that this could change in the future as characters get buffed or nerfed or as the game changes, or as the community figures out maybe niche strategies with each NightFarer. So go ahead and hop right in with Wilder. Wilder is a solid B tier. Maybe justified as an A tier, but I think he's B tier. He has 240 health, so middle of the pack, not the highest, not the lowest. Scaling in strength, B scaling in dex, and then C in the rest. So he's pretty much just a melee character with overall decent health. His passive allows you to, when you would take a lethal hit that would kill you, it just doesn't kill you, and that refreshes every time you go to a grace. So it becomes less useful the better of a player you are, but if you are new and will rely on that, solid survivability passive. His claw shot, very nice for pulling small and medium-sized targets to you, or closing the distance between you and the boss when you want to get damage in. Very nice for that. Also, whenever you're running, whichever direction you're running, even if your camera's not facing it, you can tap the grapple button and it will grapple you really far that direction. So it can be used to get out of, really massive AoE attacks that, can be a little harder to iframe. You can just avoid it altogether by pretty much getting a massive amount of distance between you and where the attack's going to be. So overall, solid character. I like him. He's fun. The grappling hook's a lot of fun, but he's not the strongest, in my opinion. Next we have Guardian. Guardian is also most people consider B tier. I think it's kind of I think Guardian's not the greatest. So Guardian has the highest health in the game at 280 base. Remember, it's scale, so the higher your base health is, the more your health will scale, and 60 stamina. So the highest potential stamina. Guardian and both Raider have 60 stamina, the highest in the game. So D scaling for strength, C for dex, and then D for intellect, and C for faith and mechanics. The scalings suck. I'm not gonna lie. The scalings are lower, so you're not gonna deal as good damage when using really anything. Your steel guard, and keep in mind you only want to play this character if you want to be just a tank holding a shield, and that's it. And the issue, and I believe there's a modifier you can put on your character, one of the things where you can, like, every time you're guarding, you draw aggro. That helps. But here's the thing, is that unless you're able to draw aggro, your identity as a tank is just gone. Like I'll get to Raider. Raider's like kind of a tank, and he can do it better, in my opinion. So not great damage. The passive with the super shield is okay. You can't get any stamina back during, like, when you're doing that super shielding passive, so I don't really like it. I don't really like using shields at all, so I'm a little biased in that regard. But in terms of his actual ability, Whirlwind, it's okay. I hold a little more weight on what's effective against the end boss, since that's where most runs tend to fail, is at the final end boss. And Whirlwind is a thing where, whirlwinds around him. Not great. You don't get any sort of armor. It's not the greatest damage or stagger. Not terrible, but not great for bosses. Good for groups of enemies, but like I said, most of the time, in my opinion, you're gonna fail on the final night fighting that final boss. So kind of meh. Now his ultimate, Wings of Salvation, you fly up in the air, you smash down, dealing damage, and that will res teammates as well. My issue with this is the damage is not great. The res is okay, but the issue is the res, like, it reses them, and then what you can do is you can stay, like, on the ground, and then hold a field, like an area of effect, where you and your teammates, I believe, can't die. I've never done it. I've never had someone do it for me. But you can only do that for up to 5 seconds. So you can res and then use some more of your ult energy to pretty much make you and your team immune for 5 seconds, which isn't very long. Pretty much, once we get to Revenant just has a better ult. And you could argue the Guardian ult has damage, but it's really not much. It's really not that great compared to, like, a Wilder ult, or compared to a Like, most of the ults are just better in terms of damage. Not great. Alright, moving on to Iron Eye. S. And remember, keep in mind, this is for co-op play. Iron Eye has the lowest base health tied with 2 others at 200. C strength, but A dex and B arcane, and then D intellect and faith. So really high dex and somewhat high enough arcane. And it makes sense, he's a bow user. So his passive, you know, I believe it might have to be you killing the enemy to get the passive. The passive makes enemies drop items more often, which in this game items, you know, it is a roguelike. So, nice passive. Nothing combat related, but solid. Marking makes the target take more damage and take more stagger if you are able to shoot the marking enough and finish it up. Your teammates can help with this. I believe if you it also reapplies. So I've heard that it extends the duration, but I do believe it actually reapplies the buff if you get enough hits in. And it can be used as a little movement tool as you do get a really nice dash out of it. So you can use it as a makeshift grappling hook, like Wilder, because it's on a somewhat quick cooldown. And yeah, use it to dodge or hit, like, go past a boss with it. If you time it, it doesn't have iframes, but if you time it well, you can just leave the area where the attack would be while also applying debuff. So, pretty good in that regard. And then his ultimate single shot, you just get one massive shot with a stupidly large hitbox. Decent damage. I don't believe it does much as Wilder's ult, but it can be done from pretty much any range. You can't really miss, really hard to miss, and if there is a group of enemies, it's gonna nuke the entire group of enemies. The AoE is so big, it's ridiculous. Now that being said, low health, he has an A scaling but not an S scaling. His ability and ult are the strongest, but they're good. Why is he good? The consistent damage output. Elden Ring NightRein, there's unlimited arrows, and you can just shoot. And because you don't have to be touching the boss, he just has a consistent high, maybe not high DPS, he has a consistent, constant DPS, assuming he's not the target. When he is the target, he's going to have to dodge more, because he drains through his stamina when shooting. But he has a consistent damage output, and he can res teammates from further away because he can shoot them. So rather than have to go melee them, he can just shoot them from a distance. So he's somewhat good in team sport because you can res from a distance. Like, he's like the only character that can do that without using an ability. And then he has constant damage. Very, very good. Now we got Duchess, which I would throw in A. The passive Magnificent Poise allows you to pretty much dodge a second time in quick succession. Alright, not terrible. I'll take it. She does have lower health at 220 for a melee-based character. However, her strength is D, her dex scaling is B, and her intellect is A, and her faith is B. So she's like a melee caster hybrid a little bit. Not terrible. The reason why I think she's pretty good is because of her skill Restage. Pretty much you can restage the damage dealt to an enemy, and that goes for not your damage, not just your damage, but everyone's damage. So essentially, a Wilder uses his ult, you restage that damage, and you essentially double the Wilder's damage. Like you just get double damage. So if you coordinate well with your team, you do like an Iron Eye ult and a Wilder ult at the same time, you replay that damage, it doubles that again. It's really, really good in team play if you can use it at the proper moments. If you can't use it at the proper moments, it's just okay. But very, very good restage. And then Finale, the Invisibility. It's not quite immortality that Revenant may give, or Guardian may give. I mean, Guardian's only 5 seconds, Revenant's is longer. Revenant's like 15, we'll get to that. But Duchess gets you and your team 10 seconds of invis. So, the difference between not being able to die and being invis is the boss won't target you while invis. Therefore, he won't be flying around the battlefield, moving this and that, making it harder to hit him, allowing you to prep, like maybe your ult or a, high hit. Pretty much you get him to stop moving while also keeping your team safe for a very brief time. So some decent support there. So the ult's not the strongest, but rather solid. Restage is really good, probably the best ability in the game because of co-op. Okay, now we got Revenant. So Revenant, in team play, I would also chuck up as an A. The passive where enemies that you killed come back as like summons to help you fight. Kind of doesn't help you much in the final night because you adjust the final boss. Not amazing. Lowest health at 200, just like Iron Eye. Has 80 FP because she's a caster. Makes sense. C scaling in Strength and Dex, and then B in Int, B in Arcane, and then S in Faith. So S scaling in Faith, really good. The Spirit Summon ability, you have 3 summons that you juggle popping out at a time, because as they take damage, they will eventually die. And if they die, they have to go on a longer cooldown, whereas if you swap them out, should heal over time. And she also has healing baked into her kit. The starting seal she starts with, I believe it's a seal, has... I can't remember the item, but it's the AoE heal for you and your team. So she can heal herself, her summons, and her team using FP. And her summons add some team support because they can draw aggro from the boss, buying your team some space and time, which is really nice. Now, Immortal March, her ultimate, is the best team support ult in the game because it gives you and all nearby teammates 15 seconds of immortality. Like, you cannot die. You can take damage, but you cannot go below 1 HP, and it will res dead teammates up to 1 HP. So essentially, you pop it, and you can just take hits for 15 seconds, roughly. And you just can't die. You just gotta make sure you heal up near the end of that effect, and then start playing normally. That's all. But 15 seconds of immortality and a res just makes it kind of definitively better than Duchess's ult and Guardian's ult. Granted, like I said, Duchess's, it's invisibility, so it's technically different. But best support ult in the game. I don't know why. The Summon Spirits can take aggro, also some support, and then S-Faith scaling, so she can use healing spells as well as other casting spells from a range to help support. Alright, moving on to Recluse, A tier. Another caster such as Revenant. Same stats as Revenant, 200 base health, 80 FP, 4 stamina. All low scalings except for Intellect and Faith, where she has 2 S scalings. High Intellect and Faith, so you can effectively cast any spell in the game and get high scaling on. So really good. Her passive and her skill work together. Her passive allows you to see what element like an enemy is stained with, and then her skill allows you to take that element and charge it. So she essentially has unlimited FP, assuming you do it correctly. Pretty much every time you use the Magic Cocktail, you store an element, you get a large chunk of FP back. Generally more than what you would cast, so you can actually just gain a bunch of FP by not spamming your spells. And then the Magic Cocktail spells are something else. There's everything from an auto parry, to trapping yourself in ice so you're immune, to giving yourself Bloodhound Step on every dodge. Very, very, very good potential abilities. There's some healing in there, just a little bit of healing in there. She's not really support, but she's extremely versatile, as she can deal tons of different damage types. And just a really good caster, because unlimited FP, high scalings, although you are going to want to memorize, to the best of your ability, all the different magic cocktail abilities, because there's a bunch of them. You need to memorize which one you need for different situations, because there's some that are AoE, there's some that are higher target damage, single target damage. It just depends. The ult is rather solid. It helps everyone on the team, so there is some support there. The Soul Bliss Song, you pretty much in a large AoE around you, you debuff enemies, and when the enemies are debuffed with your ult debuff, they take 10% more damage, as well as allies, as yourself and allies hit that enemy, you restore FP and HP. So essentially, you can allow your teammates to have like a sort of lifesteal, whereas you just hit the enemy, you get HP and FP back. And it can help you if you're low on FP as well, and you make the target take more damage. Then we have Executor, which I would throw right up there in an A pretty easily. So at 2 S scalings in Dex and Arcane, all the other scalings are C to B, so not very good. So use Dex weapons and then use Arcane weapons, I suppose. Anything that's good with Arcane. His passive is Tenacity. You may not know, but here are the stats on it. Pretty much once you recover from a status ailment, so once you recover from poison, once you recover from rot, recover from frost, for 20 seconds, you'll get a 20% attack power and bonus stamina recovery. And the stamina recovery is supposedly on par with the Green Turtle Talisman, which is pretty good. So what you can do is you can intentionally poison yourself, then cure yourself, and then you'll get a very large buff for 20 seconds, like 20% attack power. Is very, very good. So that passive is oddly one of the best in the game because it is so powerful and you can activate it on purpose or just let it happen naturally. Suncatcher, if you've ever played Sekiro, this is the guy he's based off of pretty much. You parry, and if you parry correctly, your sword will start to glow, so as you start to attack back, you'll do more damage if you parry a bunch correctly. And you'll build up stagger on the enemy. Pretty much, if you're just parrying over and over, it'll build up stagger on them, and then you'll get stronger, and then you can just beat them. The reason why he's not S tier is because the aggro is not always on you, so you can't always parry in a trio. Which, when we get to the solo play tier list, you can see where this is going. But essentially, because the aggro is not always on him, he's a little bit limited to use his Suncatcher, his deflect sword. His ultimate is among the strongest of the game, because for a good amount of time, you can sit in beast form, and then you have different combos and attacks, and the roar can pick up teammates from a little bit of a distance, while also dealing some damage in the AoE. And you have a bunch of health. I don't think I've never seen an Executor. I've never died, and I've never seen an Executor die in his ult, because you get so much health. You can see the health bar. But essentially, you do have a somewhat limited time in it that you can pop it when your team's in trouble, get them up, make sure you're safe, you won't go down while you're in ult. It's just not going to happen. Alright, now finally we got Raider, another S tier. So in my opinion, he's just a better tank than Guardian. So he has slightly lower health at 260. Oh, I forgot to say, Executor's health is 220, so it's a little lower than Wilder's, but higher than the ranged people. Just FYI. But back to Raider. Raider's health is 260 with 60 stamina, and he has an S scaling in strength, and then C and D scalings and everything else. Pretty much, he is a raw strength character. If you enjoy the giant crushers and colossal weapons of any sort in normal Elden Ring, Raider's your boy. So Fighter's Resolve, his passive, is once he takes enough damage, it will buff his Retaliate. And the passive also allows him to not get knocked down during his Retaliate or ults. So his Retaliate, you gain Hyper Armor during the animation of when you build up your punch, and then whenever you punch, you deal really good damage for a non-ult ability, and you build up good stagger. But the big thing is you gain like a 90% something damage resist, to where you essentially just take no damage. Like an ability or an attack from a boss that might one-shot you is not going to hurt much to at all if you get hit, mid using the ability. And same with your ultimate. When you cast your ultimate, you get the same hyper armor, where there's a 90% damage reduction, and you're pretty much going to take no damage. So feel free to just get in the boss's face and use both the abilities, because Retaliate is on a really short cooldown. It's like under 15 seconds or something like that. Really, really short cooldown. It just allows you to go toe-to-toe really often. It also allows you to learn enemy attacks you might not know, because you see something coming, you don't know how quick it's going to come out, you just pop it, and for the couple of seconds that Retaliate takes to go off, you can pretty much just get really good hyper armor. That being said, you build up good stagger because you're using colossal weapons, you're using Retaliate. And remember, when you take enough damage, Retaliate becomes a lot stronger. You wind up a bigger punch that has an AoE to it, a rough AoE. And then your totem, pretty much your ult, your totem, it gives you your team a high ground, so your casters can get on top of it, and then you and any teammates nearby get a damage buff. Just a flat damage buff. And that damage buff will linger even after the totem is gone. So you're supporting your team with a damage buff, which is really nice. You are dealing a really good, you're chunking them with colossal weapons and Retaliate, and then both Retaliate and the ultimate build up massive stagger. What you want to do is you want to get under the boss, or next to the boss, use your totem, and the totem will deal massive stagger as it comes out of the ground. So you're essentially a tank that's hard to kill, because you don't have to rely on a shield and a lot of stamina, because you can just hit Retaliate, use your ult, and just tank the damage through pretty much hyper armor, which is really, really good. He has a high health pool, he has and he can't really be staggered, so as really chunky hits go through, it's really unlikely you're going to get knocked out of them. Like in Elden Ring, you could be running colossal weapons, but you could also just get hit and then the animation, you know, you just got staggered out of. This guy does not get staggered, just period. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the solo tier list. Pretty much, if you are by yourself, how much better is it? You know, so the game is a little bit harder when you're playing solo, and you don't get any synergies. So Wilder, I think, is a little bit better because you don't have your teammates to res you. You know that sixth sense passive is a little bit better, buys you more time, or not buys you more time, but buys you losing less lives and levels. But it can also does buy you more time. Actually, you don't have to waste time when you would be dead. So it's a little more valuable. Guardian, I mean, who are you tanking for? Actually, yeah, D. Who are you tanking for? You would be tanking for your team, but Raider just does it better because Raider can take for himself and technically for his team. Easily D. Iron Eye, I would say, goes down to probably a B or an A because Iron Eye's consistent damage output is assuming he's not being aggroed on 24/7, which you will be in solo play. But he is still pretty good, so I'm gonna leave him. I'm gonna leave him an A. Still is constant damage. I'm gonna put Duchess down in C. Still very usable, but restage isn't as useful because you don't have a restage to pair with any like high damage abilities like these guys' ults or Executioner's ult. Pretty much, Duchess works is really good because of her restage, and her restage is not nearly as useful in solo play. Revenant in solo play is support. You're not really supporting anyone, so I'd put her a little lower because your ult you get yourself the immortality, but you can't give teammates immortality because you don't have any teammates. And it's yeah, you pretty much don't have anyone to tank for you, and you're a very fragile character. I mean, Recluse has the same stats, but she's still a lot more well-rounded. She's not really supporting, and she's just still good damage, very versatile. You don't need teammates to support to make yourself valuable and make yourself work. Very, very good. Executor, S tier. Because the aggro is always on you. You can always be parrying and using Suncatcher to be building up stagger and dealing more damage back. Pretty much the aggro is always on you, so you can always parry and you can always get high value. And then Raider, also S tier. He doesn't rely on team support. The only team support thing he has in his kit is the fact that he gets in the boss's face and takes aggro. I mean, which he wants to do anyways, even in solo play. And the buff on his ult, he makes use of as well. It's not that he's missing out on it big time like Revenant would be because there's not teammates. So this is the solo play tier list. Some characters, it's pretty different, especially with Duchess specifically, a lot lower. And as I was saying, this is always subject to change as maybe there's like a super niche strategy that can only be done with Guardian and no one else, and that puts Guardian in A or S tier and such. There's always room for this to change, but roughly this is how I see all the characters, my experience with them, my teammates, how effective they've been, and this is where I put, in my opinion, everyone on the tier list. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this was useful to you, so you can have better team compositions. And I would greatly appreciate a like and subscribe. It would help me out drastically. I wish you luck on your runs, and I hope you have a great day.